Hey, there we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Jeff Fritz. It is January 17th, 2019, and we're going to write a little bit of code today. I've got my iNeta hat on. I've got my Twitch shirt with me, and we've got a guest with us today. Let me bring her on. There she is right there.
Just as I have to cough. Hello.
Hey, it's Julie Lerman. Hey, Julie.
Hi, Jeff.
Thanks so much for joining us. Why don't you give folks the quick intro in case they don't know who you are?
Well, I'm a programmer.
There you go. That's a good place to start.
For a long time. I'm starting to think that my bio should now start with, no, I do not work for Microsoft. Somebody this morning once again thought that I did, Mads Christensen. That was kind of funny. And so yeah, I've been programming for about 30 years. I do a lot of work with Entity Framework. I've written a bunch of books on it. I have 21 courses out on Pluralsight, not only on Entity Framework. I do all kinds of other things. I'm a coach, a consultant. I get to sometimes meet some of you because I travel a lot to conferences all over the world, which is so much fun. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have my elevator pitch, so.
I've got my very well-worn copy of Programming Entity Framework Code First here.
Is it holding a door open?
Not at all. I refer to it at least once a month because it is the reference book, for me at least, for Entity Framework stuff. O'Reilly, written by Julie Lerman. Phenomenal book.
Rowan Miller.
And Rowan Miller.
Co-authored Rowan,
yeah.
Rowan Miller.
So we've got a lot of friends in the chat room today. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. There's Kevin Griffin. And I saw... I saw Mike Eaton. There's Binary Chef. Sean of the Dev. Loved the EF course, by the way. Extremely helpful. There you go.
I know you, Sean, from Twitter, because I also was like, that is an epic Twitter handle.
It is. That is phenomenal. Our friend Stelzy is here. Ancient Coder. Julie is a legend, and anyone who codes with .NET.
Thank you.
Oh.
But thank you. That's very sweet.
Very cool folks here today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Okay, cool. Jürgen says, as the lead of iNeta Germany, really need the iNeta hat. You know what, Jürgen? I got this from, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Or one of our friends from Denver. Not Kathleen. She used to be the head of iNeta.
Julie Yak.
Julie Yak. It was at TechEd in, I think, maybe 2013, 2014, and they had all this extra iNeta gear. They were, what do we do with all this stuff?
Oh, because iNeta was
winding down.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, iNeta used to be the International .NET Association of User Groups and Speakers, and they had a bunch of hats and things. I'm like, I'm a hat guy. I need a hat. So I made sure to grab that hat. So, I know you're normally known for doing a lot of Entity Framework. We talked about the book and things, and you've written 21 courses on Pluralsight. That's huge. Hang on, let's hit the applause sound effect for that one. That is gigantic, okay? That is a tremendous amount of content, an amazing contribution to our community.
Jeff.
As somebody, it's taken me a year, and I'm at 100. This is our 176th episode that we've done. And producing all of that video, I know, is hard. But what strikes me as even more impressive is editing it.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, you're just getting online and talking, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
With I'm not very good at that. And, you don't want to hear me stammering even, right? When you're watching a video.
Exactly.
So, yeah, everything's edited and scripted. Some people who do those online courses, it comes a little more easily to them, and they can do it smoothly without a lot of repeating and editing and everything. But I do. It's a lot of work for me.
So I can't script. When I'm recording a course, I feel like I can't script because when I do script, it ends up sounding forced. I want to... I want to have a couple
Yeah, some
bullet
people have
points.
that problem, but I'm the opposite because when I don't script, even though I know just what I want to say, I somehow just can't get it out the way I want to. Or then I'll be
Mm.
listening to it afterwards and I'm like, oh, I didn't mention this, I didn't mention that. So I finally gotten to, and I'm a really good writer,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, that comes naturally to me. So I write what it is that I really want to say and I read it. I know, I hope nobody can tell, but I do read it. But, I have a standing desk. So when I'm reading it, I'm standing up, I'm waving my hands, I'm doing all the things that I do when I'm just talking live.
Giving a
So I
presentation.
try really, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't, it's not like I'm trying to trick anybody, but yeah, I think it's better off for
It
the
sounds better.
viewers and yeah, it just comes, but the most important thing is it ensures that I'm saying really what it is that I want to say.
Mm. Okay. Binary Chef in the chat room says, makes me feel better that someone like Julie has to write out a script. I have to do that as well. Now I'm working on making it sound like I'm not reading the script.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe those ideas that I do, the standing and, waving your hands, yeah, more like speaking at a conference. Yeah. That's how I do it.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So we wanted to take some time today and talk about serverless and Cosmos DB. I know these are topics you've been talking about and writing about, particularly in some of your magazine columns recently.
Yeah. And speaking at conferences, yeah, it's really fun.
So, I've written one or two Azure functions, but I know there's a lot more you can do with it than just put some C# code out there to interact with existing Azure functions, and you can kind of reach outside the box a little bit. Is there there's plugins and stuff that people are making that add additional features into Azure functions?
Yeah, I wouldn't call them plugins. They're more considered extensions.
Okay.
Or just APIs, or actually, I think the real word that we should be using is bindings. That's what they're
Bindings.
referred
Okay.
to as bindings. So the bindings, when bindings exist, then the bindings then lead to APIs. So the APIs are provided by extensions. So
Okay.
Microsoft has created a whole bunch. It's not Wild West yet. It's not like, all the extensions we have for Visual Studio Code or anything like that. So a lot of these bindings combined with their APIs are for easily connecting with other Azure services. But one that I also use, we won't be using today. There's actually two that for doing SMS. So there's one from Twilio and there's one from Nexmo, and that's cool because, well, with Twilio there is a binding, which means with a binding you can just set up a little bit of configuration, and then the API takes care of the rest, so you don't have to write all the connections. So we'll show one of the bindings that we'll use today is to Azure Cosmos DB, and I showed you a little of that code last night. The actual code that we have to write was like one line of code, whereas the binding, where I described, what we're connecting to, did the rest.
Very cool.
Did all the rest. Yeah, it's really, really nice.
Yeah, that's right, chat room. We did prep.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good thing because
we found
some
an
things
issue.
have changed since last time I used it.
Yeah. We're gonna start trying to bolt on a little bit here to this oil tank vision project that I started a little bit ago. Let's go over to the code screen here. There we go. And my chat's just a little bit tall. Hang on, it's taller than I thought it was. 1 second. I'm going to shrink that chat box. I remember why I made it so tall. Because Brady took... There we go. I had to extend it after we had Brady with us yesterday. So I'm looking at the Azure portal right now. And what we've done, right, what we did in our previous project here with this oil tank vision capability was we put together an Azure function that received a photo from a Raspberry Pi that's sitting in my basement. Work with me here. It's sitting in my basement. It's connected with wireless to the house Wi-Fi, but it takes a picture of my oil tank gauge every 4 hours, uploads it, and then this Azure function that I have sitting out here that I wrote in C# in Visual Studio. It sits out here and it does a little bit of analysis.
Wrote in C# in Visual Studio and then published to Azure.
Yep. So it's going to take its good old time. And this is all marked read-only here. But here it is, process new gauge photo. It runs and it dumps out information about, well, here's what I saw. And I actually put together on the back side of this a Power BI that, honestly, Julie, I haven't looked at in about a week and a half. I know it works, and I'm just able to check in when I need to see it. Be like, all right, well, what's the level of my oil tank? So I have this graph that sits out here, and it shows, well, here's how it's been using oil, and then there it is. So here's how it's been using oil, and you can see I even got a delivery here, right? So the oil tank level went up. The green line here is the oil tank level. So I got a delivery, and it misread some of the levels here. That's fine. But right now it's saying that there's 190 gallons in the tank based on the last picture. That's right here, 190. So that's literally what it looked like 2 hours ago when it took the picture.
So it's reading the picture.
Yes.
Like doing text, like it's reading the image and interpreting it into the number, the value.
Yep, that's right.
Cool. What does that?
So I send that off to it's the Azure Recognized Text Cognitive Services API. So if I reach over to my GitHub here, I have all the code for that sitting out here under, well, that's the information about the gauge. Here's the function. So when I wrote this in C#, right, all kinds of complicated nonsense here, but send to recognize text API, and then I call into recognize text, and I tell it this is printed text you're going to recognize.
That's cool. And it's nice that those numbers are very clear,
yes.
Big and bold and clear. Yeah.
So
do you think those couple of spikes where you said it was reading it wrong, do you think that was just the interpretation that the cognitive API misread it? Or do you think the gauge, the actual gauge was just misreading it?
So here's what we can see. If you look in the top here, I actually dumped out all the data that I save right now into Azure Table Storage. So here's one of those at 1:02 p.m. UTC time on the 14th.
You can look at the picture.
Exactly, because I still have the photo sitting out here.
Such a clever idea. Okay, so that's
it's
200.
sitting there. It's 200, but it somehow recognized the 2 as a 5.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. If you the
because of the shadow.
The bottom of the 2. No, the bottom.
Oh.
The bottom of the 2.
Yeah.
It's right there. So it picks up 510. I can see 510 there.
Yeah. So okay,
so the cognitive API is in sync with my brain.
But not mine.
It's
and I'm the one that matters.
Smart or as stupid as I am.
We're getting there. So I'm going to put, why isn't that showing? All right. So that's nice, and it does this. Now, one of the features that folks have suggested to me, and that might play in with a little bit of what you're discussing around hooking up to Twilio, is what happens when that runs low? Or what happens if, you know what, we burned a lot more oil today than what we were burning on average over the last day or two, right? If for some reason this drops 50 gallons, ooh, that's a problem. We should probably alert someone. And maybe a text message would be a good thing to send. Or, you know what, Jeff, you're under 100 gallons. Let's notify you. Make sure you're getting a delivery coming here in the next few days because We don't want to run out and have the family get cold.
Right.
So, yeah. So there might. Does that make sense? Is that something that we can kind of connect into the chain here? And this feels very Rube Goldbergian, right? The mousetrap, right? We've got a Raspberry Pi taking a picture, uploading to the cloud, doing analysis, saving in a database, and I'm outputting it. But can we put that alert in there to have the function jump off and say, "Oh, we've got to notify Jeff," and send a text message?
Yeah, yeah. Now, it's too bad I don't know how to. We can definitely do that. It would be really cool, but we're not going to do it because I have no idea how to also send the picture just in case it's misreading it. Right? Like, oh my gosh, the tank is overflowing. You're having an oil spill at your house, right? Because it thinks it's 510. Well, you would
sure, right? Or if too much, if it dropped a significant number, right? If our current burn rate is only 5 gallons a day and it suddenly dropped to 20 gallons, there might be a hole, right? Something happened and you've got a hole.
My proposal was we can add another function that will send an alert. Okay. And then we can store the history of the alerts in the Cosmos DB database. Now, that maybe is a little silly. I mean, you're already using Azure Table Storage, and do you really need to store the alerts? Maybe, maybe not. But it gives us an excuse to use the Cosmos DB bindings with Azure Functions. So I think that's worth it.
And we might actually be running into a scenario here where when we want to do a little bit more advanced data analysis, like, well, what's the average amount of oil we burned over the last few days? I can't do that easily out of table storage, right? Table storage is more of, here's the data, store it, and I'm going to fetch all the data, or fetch the last how many rows of data. But in Cosmos, I can actually run queries and things, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a big data store.
So that might be a reason to migrate my data to Cosmos in the future, where table storage is low to no cost to store in here. I can't do any kind of real analysis with it, and it's primarily key value store. So okay, and I'm not maybe to looking at the table here that I have to what you were suggesting earlier of. It'd be cool if you send that text message and here's the photo. Well, maybe we don't attach the photo. Maybe we just attach the link, and you can.
Oh, right. There's a URI.
So yeah, maybe, and you can click the link and open it there. So
okay.
And my links.
Well, let's see how far we can get with that.
Yeah, my links all start with jeffcatimages.blob.core because I have, like, as one does, I have a collection of cat photos stored on Azure because everyone needs a collection of fun cat
because
photos.
Let's hear what the end of that sentence is going to be. What is your reason?
Doesn't everybody have cat photos on Azure? You know?
No.
Okay, fine.
If anything, I would have giant puppy photos.
Giant puppy photos.blob.core.windows.net. That's to each their own. Giant puppy photos, sure. Okay. I see our friends Carrie Payette is here and Veronica is here. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining us. And Lee says, I foresee an oil level button on someone's Stream Deck. We could do that at some point in the future, but not today. Let's do a little bit of this analysis and actually get a little productive here. So if I want to put a function in the chain, in the process, where do I attach in to start adding things together? To put that notification into play, not the photo.
Do you mean what tool are we using, or, I mean,
what tool?
Or are we know we're going to create a function. We're going to create an Azure function for it.
Right.
So there's a number of ways to build Azure functions. You've already done it in Visual Studio. I do it frequently. I usually use Visual Studio Code. I happen to use that. I use a Mac a lot. I go back and forth.
Terrific.
And like Visual Studio Code has some wonderful extensions for working with and building and, debugging, etc., Azure Functions. And it also has a great extension for interacting with Azure Cosmos DB. So I use that a lot.
Cool. Okay.
However, when I do introductory sessions on Azure Functions, I always start in the portal. And the portal is how I started, how I learned. And the reason that I like to do it is because you can really visually see how all the different moving parts go together.
Okay.
Right? It's more visual.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
You don't have a lot of the power. You can do a lot with the coding and testing. You can't debug it, step. You don't have all of that, right? So it's limited how much you're going to do there. But I think it's a great place to start if you've never used Azure Functions before, especially trying to understand triggers and input bindings and output bindings and all of that. It really helped me understand that. And once I had that understanding, and then I went to visuals, and then I went to VS Code, and I was only using code. I didn't have kind of the visual stuff helping me. It was fun because I had already made that leap, so I was able to understand it.
There's definitely something to be said for having that visual interaction to teach you some of these concepts up front, so you can see how the mousetrap all fits together, and you eventually see how that guy flips into the tub and why that drops the cage over the mice at the end of the game.
Exactly how I would have expressed it.
Right.
Keeping with your Rube Goldberg imagery there.
I love Rube Goldberg. I do.
So we're talking about a number of different functions, a number of different things happening.
Okay.
Right? We want to receive an alert, right?
Yeah.
We need something needs to start it all. Something needs to say, hey,
there's a problem.
There's a problem that's going to come, and that's going to come through HTTP, right? That's going to come as a web request.
Okay.
Now that is going to come along with a little bit of information, right? The information being what the number is and the URL.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
We can absolutely we can go that way.
And then with that information, we want to send out an SMS message.
Okay.
And we also want to store the record of that event into the Cosmos DB database. Okay. Now we could do all of that with a single function. There's no, I don't see a need to chain functionality to do that. We can actually do all that with one function.
But it's just that notification.
Pardon me?
It's just that trigger, that kickoff that's going to kick off something that does the analysis and says, oh, we need to notify.
Right.
And send that.
Right. It's run the function, right? Something that says make the function go. So the first thing I want to make sure for people who aren't familiar with Azure Functions is functions are contained in a function app. So you have one function app, and within that, all the functions related to the app. So the app itself has things like secrets and configuration, things like that, and that's shared with all of the functions inside of the app. So you already have a function app, Oil Tank Vision, and you have one function inside of that, Process New Gauge Photo.
Right.
So what we can do is add a new function to this function app.
Would we be able to, because this one's deployed and it's a compiled application sitting in? You're right. Or do we stand up another one next to it that will receive that notification? And then
so that's a good point. And the reason is when you create an Azure function and deploy it from Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, or even from a CLI, that is binary, and then it becomes read-only
You can't
when
modify
it's
it
in the portal.
Yeah, yeah. Hugo is saying, it asks, would saying that a function app equals a controller and the function is an endpoint be a good comparison?
I think that's a good comparison.
Making that MVC connection. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, except that's all dependent on the function app would more be the endpoint, right? Because a function itself doesn't necessarily get triggered by an HTTP request. It could be triggered by some change happening in your Cosmos DB database. It could be triggered by there's all kinds of triggers. We're
triggering this process the new photo on the arrival of a new blob, right? That photo arrives in blob storage and it kicks off this processing, right? I have a blob trigger.
A blob trigger, right.
And it goes and says, let's do my analysis. So maybe since we have to do some analysis on the data coming in, maybe we set up a table trigger so that when the analysis is complete and it's written into the table, right, into this table storage over here, we then do our analysis and say, okay, send the notification.
Right, because something needs to determine that the threshold has been crossed, right? Where is that going to happen?
I think that's what we write in our function. Just send a notification over to this little bit that'll do that analysis and say, do I need to notify someone because the oil tank is low? If the answer is yes, all right, now let's call out to our SMS binding and send the notification.
Okay. So that means from your application, your Raspberry Pi first is going to send the data to the function that does the blob storage.
Yes.
And then it's going to send another message to the other function? Or are you saying that your blob storage function, the process new gauge photo, should then call the other function?
I don't think it needs to call the other function.
Well, trigger the other function.
Yeah, so it'll, right, so here's the source code for what's doing the processing on the blob. Right there it is doing the processing. When it finishes, it saves into a table storage. So if we trigger on the appearance of something in table storage and then do the analysis of, well, let's look at that record, right?
Well, that's one path. And I'm just thinking about that person who's like, oh, so you guys did prepare. So you can see we didn't totally plan ahead.
No, we know what we're building.
which is important to understand going through this decision making.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, the other thing I'm wondering is, does it make sense? And, then you get into this whole, microservices, right? Like, does it make sense to have this function right here make the determination of whether you need to call the other thing? I think not,
because
now you're giving it too many
too much responsibility. Yeah, single responsibility model. Our friend Steve Smith would be proud.
So then the new function wouldn't be an HTTP trigger. It could be another, not a blob trigger, but could be triggered by the fact that this data went into the Azure table storage.
Yeah.
And pick up. Can it pick up?
So, right, it would pick up that record.
Sending it, right? Would it pick? I guess, would it pick up what?
Well, it would just pick up the contents of that record, right?
How do we know that?
Okay. Good question.
So the trigger, I think that if you're going to do, it's going to be an Azure table storage trigger. I'm sure they have that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's responding to, It should, I think the record that was affected should come into the function.
Yes. There it is, table storage.
Table storage. Okay, cool. Let's see what gets what comes into it.
2.x, local development, portal development.
So are we making an assumption that everybody here understands what a binding is and why we're talking about this problem already?
I think we've explained it a little bit.
Okay.
This is right. This is the trigger. This is what we're listening for to understand when to execute the function.
Right. The function will be listening for it. So the cool thing is these triggers pre-exist.
Yeah.
Now you're seem to be looking at a. Are you looking at a binding or are you looking at a trigger?
This
looks like it's under bindings.
It looks like it's under
bindings.
bindings for table storage. But I thought, where's the trigger? Input, because it routed me over Azure Table Storage bindings. No, I wanted the trigger. Supported bindings. Where's the
example trigger bindings? Oh wait, here's the column trigger, the middle. So scroll down and see if table storage has a check mark in the middle.
No. Oh no. I thought there was a table trigger. Oh, nuts.
So we can't go that route. So
what were the first two columns here? Version 1, version 2.
Version 1, version 2.
Okay.
So you can have input and output bindings.
The only thing we can't do is the trigger. Oh, nuts. Oh, nuts. Our friend Carrie
thinking.
So I want to thank Carrie for cheering. Thank you so much for that kind cheer. The 200 bits. Well, I'm actually going to match that, Julie, and make a donation to Black Girls Code. So all through first quarter 2019, I'm going to match all subscriptions and cheers and make donations to Black Girls Code.
Oh,
thank you so much, Carrie, for that kind cheer. And a subscription. Thanks so much, GG Feds. I appreciate that as well. I've got all the alerts
is the subscription
silent.
What's that number that's going to almost be 5,000 soon?
So right below me here on the video, you can see 4896. That's the number of followers. Anybody can follow for free. Just click that heart button up at the top of the video.
And why do you want more followers?
So more followers means more folks that are interested. They get notifications when we're going live here. And
why is getting 5,000 followers?
Yeah, when we hit 5,000, I am dyeing this. I'm gonna dye this soup catcher, this beard, rainbow colored. And with how close we are, and with how next week I'm going to be at Channel 9, we may end up dyeing this rainbow colored with a couple Scots in the area. It might be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so 5 of you, go for it.
Well, not just 5, 105.
Oh, I thought it was 44.95. I can't see the number. I'm not.
48.96 is the number right now. So tell your friends, tell your families, tell your pets. Sign up for Twitch. And
all right, so we got to go back to solving our problems.
So we can't trigger the table. Dander, thanks so much for the follow. 48.97.
So here's what I think.
Okay.
For the sake of giving us an excuse to write this function, not for the sake of perfect architecture.
Yeah.
Okay. Why not for now? And then we have to think through a better way. But why not for now? Unless somebody's got a better idea, just call the function from the other function.
Yeah, let's just trigger it directly and
right. Are we okay with that? It's like, we already talked about why we didn't want to do that, but for the sake of time and efficiency and getting to the goal of, let's just write this. We want to write this function. So
absolutely.
This is going to be our excuse.
Okay. So I'll eventually come back and attach on to the end of this method an HTTP call out to notify this other function we're about to write and say, Here's the record. You go figure out what to do with it. Cool. I can do that. But
I have another idea. Do you know that you can have multiple output bindings on a function?
Ooh, yes.
So,
Go on.
Here is what we could do.
Okay.
Add a Cosmos DB binding, output binding. Send the same information to the Cosmos DB database as you're sending to the Azure table storage.
And have
then
that trigger.
Then the new function can be a Cosmos DB trigger.
Yeah.
And then eventually, because you said, well, maybe we don't want to store it in Azure table storage anymore. Maybe there's a reason we want to store it in Cosmos DB. Well, dude, there's the reason.
There's the reason, because the table doesn't trigger. Stephen P. Adams, thanks so much for the cheer. 100 bits, we'll match and donate. Got a bunch of folks saying hello. Aaron and Cincy Aluth. Developer Garage says, make it work, make it right, make it fast. Amen. That absolutely, right? But R.H. Sumner asks a good question. Why not web request from the Raspberry Pi after getting a result back from sending the image to Azure Functions? So, Julie, my thinking is I don't want to enhance the code on the Pi. Keep the Pi simple. Keep it small. Yeah. Take the picture, do the upload, done. And
also, is there some benefit to not doubling the calls that the Pi now would have to make to do that? So we can take advantage of the triggers and have things automatically happen.
Right. It's less for us to maintain on that device. We've got an extensible area on Azure. Let's add the additional triggers. And then when the next thing, the next analysis, the next data, AI, whatever we want to do with it, we can extend in the cloud. And the Pi just stays simple, and it's a glorified camera.
Nice. Great. Then there's
go ahead.
The comment that SQL Mr. Magoo just made. Do we have to worry about the costs of things?
So Cosmos is
right.
Yeah, Cosmos is a little expensive. A little expensive. I mean, we could store it as a blob, right? We could put that result as JSON and put it back into some other blob storage, and then there's a JSON thing there that we pop out and serialize and do something with, deserialize back into an object and do something with. But that's...
And we brought this up before, too. I said, Cosmos DB really isn't the right place to be storing, 100 records, 100 documents, right? Yeah. And this is, we're just kind of making a little stretch here to just have an excuse to see how it works.
Yeah. Give it a try.
And that's what I do a lot. I just want to see how things work. And I don't have a million rows of data to deal with, but I can do my little exploration. Yeah, I'm with you, Binary Chef. It is right now. Extension. My February article. So Binary Chef says that he would use Cosmos DB if it weren't so expensive, but he does use the VS Code extension to connect to MongoDB. And I just did the same thing. My February MSDN data points article.
Yeah.
I was curious. First of all, I'd never used any of the other Cosmos DB models. I'd always use the SQL model, the SQL model.
Okay.
So I was curious about just seeing what it felt like, but I don't happen to use MongoDB. I've never used it before. But also somebody pointed out that you could use that Cosmos DB extension in Visual Studio Code to interact with MongoDB. I installed MongoDB on my laptop just to, and I was like, oh, that's cool. See how it works a little bit, interact with it with Visual Studio Code, switch it. Anyway, so we're getting a little off. So,
that's okay.
So the bottom line, and yay, Lannon BR says, yeah, testing for testing's sake can be okay. So, please understand, we totally get that this is not, maybe not the most cost-effective thing, but this is about seeing how some of these bindings work with
sure.
Azure Functions.
You could still do a table storage trigger in V1 functions and put the new row into a storage queue and then trigger V2 functions. That there's a little bunch of hops
but
there.
It's already quarter till 11.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Maybe not.
All right, so I think we have our structure set up that we want to go after here. I will update that function at a later time so that instead of writing into table storage here, I'll write into a Cosmos DB.
No. We're going to add. Oh, shoot. We can't do it.
Unless I modify this and redeploy. Can do that.
Okay.
But just
so for the sake of moving forward, what are we gonna go for? I mean, that was a good solution, but yeah, we can't just go ahead and edit this right here because we have to go back to Visual Studio and add. Do you want to just go to Visual Studio and no? No, let's just keep it simple.
Yes. Let's go with, we'll build the function that does the analysis of some data passed in, and we'll mock that for right now.
Trigger for now, just so we can do something, and then we can change it to have a different trigger when the time comes. Right.
And we'll trigger it and we'll pass in information like here's the current volume, and here's a link to a string that's the URL, and we'll do whatever analysis and decide whether to send that text message.
Okay. And then are we okay with, again for now, hard coding the threshold into this function?
Sure. I think that's fine.
Okay.
We'll put an if statement. If volume less than 100, send the text message. Cool. Okay.
Sounds good. Okay.
All right. So I need to build a new function app to do that function so that it's outside and we can use some of the portal functions that are here on that are here on the Azure portal. So I need to actually exit there, don't I?
Oh, you can't. This, I know. Wait. We just have to say it, though. Hey, Azure Functions team friend, can't we be here and say create a new Azure Function app?
Give me a button right here that says add new.
Because this is always where I go first. This is the first place I go. I want to create a new function app. I go, function apps, add new. Nope, can't do that.
I'd love
to go to add.
Right here, just an add new button.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason it's not there.
Yeah.
So create a resource.
There it is down here. And
you just went to the same place.
I did. Oh my gosh.
You gotta go to tippy top, create a resource.
Okay. And it's
now, if you're lucky, it's under show.
Yeah,
recent
there it is.
Function app.
All right. And it opened as there it is. So app name. This is. I'm going to call this. Let's call this oil tank analysis. Right, or oil tank notification.
Okay, and normally you would group these related functions into a function app, but we're doing a funny thing.
It's not that funny. Should I choose Windows or Linux?
Yeah, leave it at Windows. Don't go to the preview. Hosting plan, location, runtime stack, .NET. Do you want to create a new storage so that when you can delete all this at once if you need to?
Sure, that's fine.
I'm not sure. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, and I don't know if it's because it's creating new storage or creating a new resource.
No, it's not in this group. That's fine. We'll create a new one. And go. And it's going along, doing the thing.
It takes a couple of minutes, doesn't it? Maybe it'll be faster.
Event store bindings. Oh, yeah. That's very cool. Now I'm going to go back over to function apps, and it should appear at some point here, right?
Right. Oh, you should see your
the thing up here.
Them hidden, yeah.
Yes.
To see what's going on there.
The number of times that I've accidentally doxed myself in the Azure portal is ridiculous. Okay. While that's going,
But for people who aren't used to that, there's these grayed out things. There's a little icons there that tell you the status of something's being created and it's working on it.
And I'm running the Azure Mask extension you see up here so that it hides all those things.
Community created extension.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do not need to mess that up again. Let's see here.
No, we won't know. When are we going to see that it's there?
Now the thing should pop up and everybody will be happy.
Don't have to refresh the page or anything?
Not there yet.
Yeah.
It's still doing its
thing. I
thing.
think it took a couple of minutes last time when we practiced, when we did a half a practice last night.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? It's more copy password. I'm trying to log into my Twilio account we created.
Do you know, I found out this morning. I'm at my dad's house right now, and we just got here last night. And we found out this morning there's no coffee in the house.
What?
My dad doesn't drink coffee.
Oh, my gosh.
I had luckily brought some black tea with me. So I had a little 1 cup of black tea caffeine. But, yeah, I haven't had any coffee.
Oh, my gosh. Why isn't my... I'm going to have to copy and paste this password. It's for some reason not working properly. I use LastPass to log into everything. There it goes. I guess we can show my Twilio number.
Idea. It should be there by now.
Yeah, there it is.
Notification. Yay. Okay.
All right. I'm going to click into that.
So, as a reminder, we're going this path in the portal just because it makes it easier to see all the working parts and how everything goes together and understand what makes a function app. So now we have a function app. Now, Jeff, can you open up the app settings?
Application settings.
I never remember if it's function app settings or application settings.
Yeah.
And we'll look at your secrets, except they're hidden. So did you set up, so we can use either Twilio or Nexmo for doing SMS. They're both, each of those companies have APIs for doing SMS. But you set up a Twilio account, right? So we're going to use a Twilio binding?
Did, yes. So I have
you will need to put your secrets in here.
Okay.
So
let's add some settings.
Do you remember what the settings names are? We'll figure out what they need to be and come back. But those are application-wide settings. So they would be shared with all the functions inside of this function app. No, there's only going to be one, but
sure.
So why don't we go ahead and create a new function?
Well, I'm going to copy in my secrets. I do have them. So I'm going to copy in, so the account SID, right, this SID, I'm going to paste that in right there. And then I'm going to add one more setting here, and the second one is called the Twilio auth token. There it is. Now, I'm actually going to go and change scenes here back to just the two of us while I paste in the value there, so nobody sees my key, my authorization token that I so frequently inadvertently share here. You can't screenshot it. It's just the two of us. Ha ha. All right, back there. So now it's hidden. You can't see it, but it's right there. I will save that. And then there it is. All right. So there they are. Twilio account SID.
We're eventually going to need to do the same for our connection to Cosmos DB.
Sure.
Just so you know. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and create a function?
All right. So see, they've got this nice
plus sign.
They've got a nice plus here for doing that.
I tell you, I'm sure there is a reason. There has to be a reason.
And
because it's so obvious to all of us, it can't not have been obvious to others. So when you first do this, the UI shows you that there's different ways of creating functions. Do you want to create it in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code? If you scroll, create it in the portal. But this was a funny path, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a couple funny things going on here that we could run into.
How did we get to the other path? If you scroll up again.
So this is the quick start.
That's why. We don't want to do it from the quick start.
No.
That's the reason.
Right. So we can actually, we closed that, and I thought, that puts us.
How do you get out of the quick start?
You have no choice.
More templates.
More templates.
No, we want to do a webhook API, but I don't understand why it forces us through this, because this is another improvement that's happened recently. Because we got, well, just go ahead and do it.
Yep, through the portal.
Through the portal. And you want to query to webhook plus API.
There we go. Uh-oh,
Whenever
here comes.
it receives a request.
All right, we'll create that. And
so that's really weird, right? Because that didn't let us name it or anything, remember?
No.
But go ahead, watch what happens. Go ahead and click on the plus sign again. This second time, it doesn't force you.
No.
See? It doesn't force you to the quick start. So.
Now, Durcia says there's a custom function button down beneath. I scrolled down and it wasn't down there.
Yeah, we didn't see it because I'm used to seeing that also.
Right? I was over here on the quick start and I scrolled down and there's no custom function button down here anywhere.
Yeah. It used to be, and it's not there anymore. So the other reason why then I said, well, let's just do another new one is because you can't rename a function.
It's trigger one and that's it.
And that sucks. So go ahead and click the plus sign. And then the second time it doesn't do that. So this is all good. We'll give feedback to our friends who are responsible for these things.
Oh my gosh. So we got a couple new followers here, Salhard and Mano J85. That should put us almost over 4,900. Almost there. One to go.
I like the Hugo. Hugo says, because after the first time, you're an expert at creating a function.
Yeah, you are.
So go ahead and give this a name.
All right, so let's call this, so let's do that low tank, right? Low volume, right? So this is our notification function, group of app functions. Let's have this one do low volume. Now, what's the authorization level? What's this thing?
Oh, that's what kind of access how you want that function to be available. So anonymous means anybody can run it. Function, I think, means coming from another function inside the function app. And admin means, with the admin, I think you have to pass in your credentials. So when I'm doing demos, I choose anonymous so that I don't have to deal with passing credentials around.
Durcia just did a follow. There we are. We just hit 4,900.
Ooh, that's a nice number.
Sorry.
I also have a little bit of an issue about this being called this, like, for real world. Oh, if you want to delete that trigger, go to manage. Go to manage.
Manage. Where do you see manage?
2 down from HTTP trigger.
Oh, that's weird.
Manage. And then delete function.
Okay.
Are you sure? Yes, sure.
All right.
So this is really, this low volume. We're really gonna, we don't already know if it's low volume. So we're actually going to analyze, and if it's low volume, send that
notification.
Right.
Okay.
So again, for real world, you might think about that and say, well, what if there's other things we want to analyze? Do we have to pass it to 6 functions to check all the different things? No. So eventually maybe we'll do,
a central analysis thing that goes and triggers and says, okay, here, you go do this, go do that.
Because we don't know it's low volume yet. But again, we're not doing real world. Our aim here is to somehow get through this and show you how to deal with it, creating the query and sending out the SMS.
Right. We're just receiving the volume information and then figure out send that notification.
Yeah. And that's going to come in through the request. So I almost don't want to start by looking here. What we've got here is just a stake in the ground, vanilla kind of function, right? So they give you something. So you've got a function that will take in something, whatever comes in through the request, and then it just returns hello,
It's a hello world.
Whatever's in the request. So
right.
it's just stake in the ground. So if you want to actually run that and pass in something to test that out, yeah, you go over to test and you can
let's see,
put
Rambling
something
Geek.
in the request body.
All right, so there's Rambling Geek.
That's what we're doing, rambling.
Okay, and then rerun that.
And then scroll down to
hello, Rambling Geek.
Right. So that was the stake in the ground. And so that's how you can test it live. So the thing you can't do is debug, but what I do a lot, if I'm working in the portal and I'm writing code in the portal, I actually will put little messages, and the messages come out down on, I can write out to this little
into the log.
Log, right? I could just log them, just like we did in 1986.
Yeah. I want to thank our friend Dee Dee Walsh, who just gave 5 subscriptions to folks in the chat room. That is phenomenal, and we're going to match those 5 subscriptions and make donations to Black Girls Go. Thank you, Dee Dee. So continuing here, I love being able to log and be able to see all this information right here, and the little test harness with HTTP over here to be able to quickly get some feedback as to what I'm building works.
If we were doing in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, then we would just debug and get that. But we're here, so let's not look at the code. I think the nicest place to start is to look at the integration screen.
Okay.
So if you go to the integration, so this defines, so if a function has a trigger, right? Something that triggers the function to start. And we talked about that already. And we're choosing, for this scenario, we're choosing a trigger to come in by an HTTP request, okay? It can also have bindings, and there's input bindings and output bindings. Now, an input binding is not the same as a trigger. The trigger is really what's coming in with a request. An input binding is, hey, I need, if you say, hey, I need some more information in order for my function to run. So the input binding would go do whatever you define to get some more input that's going to come into the function so that you can process. And an output binding is what's going to happen when all is said and done. So here, there's by default an output binding for an HTTP return is already set up. And that was what you saw in the
And so at this point, this is really just
that happen.
Yeah, this is really just behaving like an HTTP API endpoint, right? Something I might build with ASP.NET Web API. I made a call, I passed some payload into it, and I got a response back. But we want to do more. We don't want to just call and pass in, here's our payload. We want to pass in, or we want to receive out of it and put somewhere else using these bindings.
Our output, we're going to have some outputs. We're not going to have any other inputs here. We're just going to have whatever comes in through the trigger. So I do want to point out that in the box, the form down there where things were defined, I want to point out the request parameter name, REQ.
Yeah.
Now if you flip back over to the code. Notice that in the signature, we've got HTTP request REQ. So those align.
Okay.
Right? So the binding knows that we're expecting, that the function is expecting the input request to be named REQ. We could rename it foo, right? But we have to let the binding, if we renamed it here, we have to let the binding know that the name is different because it's dependent on that in the code. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
So let's go back to integrate.
Let's
create another output binding. So we're actually not going to output to HTTP because we're not going to send a message back to the Raspberry Pi, are we?
Nope. No.
So we don't really need that original output binding. Just so you know, we could get rid of it.
But okay, all right.
Right? I mean, it's not going to
I think we do want to return at least some acknowledgement. Success, I received this, right? So that whatever sends in that notification actually triggers and is a responsible internet citizen.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I should have asked the question rather than made the statement.
I'm going to... I need to interrupt 1 second. In the chat room, Mike Jolly just gave 10 subscriptions to folks. Thank you so much, Mike. That is very generous. Yeah, lots of subscriptions being handed out today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm also impressed with your multiprocessing. I can't do I can't like think about all this and watch that, and that's just, I'm really impressed. But I know you do this a lot.
Well, this is where ADHD pays off.
Oh, it does. I didn't realize. So I only have ADD. I don't have ADHD.
There you go. All right, so we want to add that Twilio binding now.
Yes, but I also want to point out this is one of the reasons why it's so nice to use the portal when you're first learning. I mean, look at this. Look at all the output bindings we could possibly set up.
Yeah, it's nice that these
are tied to Microsoft, but so the Twilio, it's cool that there's the Twilio one.
Twilio, SendGrid, right? Send it to a OneDrive file. That's not bad. Be able to write into your OneDrive that, hey, something happened.
Your pictures, your images.
Yeah, send my cat photos over there.
Send out an Outlook mail message.
Yeah.
Right. So we're gonna do the SMS because that's fun to do.
All right. Select that one.
Why else would we make decisions? Because they're fun. Now, this is important. Remember, much earlier, for anybody who was here, I said that bindings are just configurations, but they're all associated with extensions that have APIs and logic and code. So we need this function to have access to the Twilio extension. So it's making sure it's really obvious here. Now, if we were doing this in Visual Studio Code, we would also have to add the extension, but that's a little easier because you can do that, through NuGet or something like that. Oh, you can also do it through the Azure Functions CLI. Anyway, so go ahead and click on Install because we're going to need that extension available. And we don't have to sit here and wait for it to be done. It says it could take up to 2 minutes, but you can even leave the page. It'll continue doing it. So now we have the form for setting this up. Message parameter name. That's just like the request parameter name of REQ.
Okay.
Right? So this is just saying, when you're writing your code, what are you going to be, what's the name you're going to be using for the variable, for the message variable. So let's just leave it message. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Then the form also says, what is the name of your setting for your account SID? And remember, Jeff already added those to the application settings. Mm-hmm. So this binding configuration is just saying, go and find, when you need the account SID, go and find that in the setting, the application setting. And you're going to need the authorization token, and you're going to find that in the setting called Twilio auth token. So that's it. Now
I need to give it that phone number, right? That it's going to be coming from.
So this is the Twilio phone number. So when you have a Twilio account, it gives you one or more phone numbers, and those are the phone numbers that are used to dial out. Now, you don't give them your own phone number. These are it's like they own all these cell phones, but they're not really cell phones. They're virtual phones.
I could do something like that, but I'm going to use the number that Twilio gave me.
Okay, which you're going to delete so that all of these evil people who are lurking on the Twitch don't go and start sending things out from there. That's a little bit of a problem. Luckily, it's only
we're going to be deleting this number later. We'll get a different phone number later.
So you can hard code the message right into the configuration. Or you can build.
We can do something like that and just write.
Right.
But
although you might, in your code, you might really want to say what the volume is, but we can append it.
Exactly.
We can append it.
Okay.
So go ahead and save that.
And the extension's done installing also. Okay, cool.
Yay. Now, this hasn't affected our function code. The function code is no different. So go ahead, just go back to the low volume function code.
So I'm going to grab that message parameter name so I can carry it along with me.
Just in case you can't remember the word message.
I can't, Julie.
So what we just did had nothing to do with the code. But it did have something else. It did something else very important. If you click over on View Files.
View Files, okay.
You're going to see not only do you have your run CSX file, but there's also a function.json file.
All right.
Function.json is where the bindings are stored.
Okay.
So when you're working in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, if you're just using code, not using the portal, this is what you would be building. You would be building this file. You wouldn't be, well, it depends on what extension you're using.
Sure.
But the goal is the file. The portal gives us this nice, easy way to create this file by all the forms. So notice, so this is all the bindings. So bindings is the header.
Yep.
Then there's 3 bindings defined in there. The first one is the HTTP trigger. See, its type is HTTP trigger. That name, that's that variable name, REQ. The auth level that we defined. The direction is in. We didn't define that. That's just all triggers are coming in.
Gotcha.
The second one was another default one. That was that HTTP output binding. So its direction is out. Its type is HTTP. Now, those types are predefined. You can't just make up a type name, right? The types, it's literally that has to be HTTP and out.
That doesn't
won't
work.
Right.
Okay.
And then return is the name of that variable. Now here's the one we added. So the type is Twilio SMS. The variable name will be message, right? There's the settings, there's the from, there's the body, and it's an output binding. So understanding that's really, really important. And I've sometimes, kind of copy and paste them from here. But now with the newer extension for Visual Studio Code, the newer Azure Function extension, it actually, you define some of these bindings as attributes in your function code, and then the compiler builds this function JSON for you. So that was cool. Although I like having this control myself because I'm a control freak. That goes with being a programmer.
It does.
So we've got set, right? And then that's going to do all the work because now the Twilio extension that's tied to this Twilio binding, the extension will take care of, creating the account, creating the authorization token, knowing, it'll read the number that it's dialing from, it'll read the body, it'll put it all together, right? So we only have a little bit of work to do actually in our function. So we can go back to the function.
Well, while we're here, there's a question two questions in the chat room that I think we can answer quick.
Chat room.
The first one's from SQL Mr. Magoo. Could you include a link to the image in that message? Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, we'll do that dynamically in code, though.
Yes. And then the second question, can you have more than one type OG trigger for one function? I think that means more than one output trigger. Is that what you're referring? More than one?
You can only have one trigger.
Right. Okay.
That I, as far as I know.
Okay.
I never thought about that before.
But you can have more than one binding output or input.
You can have multiple input bindings and multiple output bindings. So we're going to add another output binding, as a matter of fact. Why don't we do that?
Do that
right
real
now.
quick here. Integrate changes made to. That's fine. All right, so we're outputting to Twilio SMS. Let's add another.
And so we already have 2 output bindings. Let's do one more.
Okay.
Which is to Azure Cosmos DB.
Looking. Why don't I see it?
Go scroll down further.
It's at the end.
Phew.
Why
Okay, and then select. Now, I'm assuming you have a Oh, so again, it's got to install the extension that goes with that binding.
I'll just click and install.
And
And
then here's the setup and the form. And then what will the goal, first of all, Jeff, you're going to need to tell it the name of the database and the name of the collection. You're also going to have to give it the how
connection.
to get the connection. Now the connection is something you have to that's to your account, and that's a secret that you'll need to put into your application settings. But look, you can create a new account right on the fly here.
Can I? Azure Cosmos DB, put it in this. I thought I had a, there it is.
Do you have one that already exists? Oh.
I do, but I'm not sure I want to use that one because I was using it to build a polling extension for Twitch a long time ago. Versus just build a new one.
Okay, I don't know how long it'll take to create a new one.
Let's
maybe
find
a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it won't create a new one. All right, so we'll just select this one for right now. Go, use it. Use the database.
Yeah, this is just a demo.
Database name.
Okay, so now notice that it gave this just name, Twitch poll document DB. My guess is if you go to the application settings, you're going to see that in there now.
If I click show value, it's probably going to show it.
Yeah, you don't have to show it. I'm just saying that's probably stored in the that's stored in your function app settings now.
Gotcha.
So there's something else I need to make sure you do. This database and collection don't exist yet, so why don't you let the function create them as needed, if needed.
If true, create it. Yes. Okay. Makes sense.
Yep. So the other thing I want to point out is the only thing we're going to have to do is in code is create a JSON, and then attach it to the variable called output document.
Okay.
Because that will be associated the binding, and then the binding will go look for output document and then send it through the API and insert it.
Nice. Okay.
That's the output. So the output we're creating will be a new document in the notifications collection of the Oil Tank DB database. That's what the output will be. So whatever we give it, we'll have to create a document in code.
Cool. Okay. So so we have output document, and the other one was message we need to create as parameters.
I can remember those. Okay.
So I'm going to save this. It's still installing the dependencies. I can leave this page and continue. All right. I'm going to. So what are the parameter types that I need to put in to go along with those names, right? We know it's going to be something message, and the other one was something output document. And are those out parameters? As a C# person, that's...
Oh, gosh, I'm so used to doing this in...
Don't you say JavaScript. No. Don't you say JavaScript, Julie Lerman. Don't you dare say JavaScript to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to be flexible. But no, even with my C# one, that's right. No, we shouldn't have to predefine message in there unless something has changed.
So we can probably make it just an object?
We should just
like that?
Wait, this one is, I want to make sure. Oh, I'm so used to doing that one. Okay, let me. Yes, you want out. You want outs for both of those things. That's right. Output document and message. Okay. Now I'm looking at my C# example from the last time I wrote a C# one. So now we have to read what came in from the request, right? So we need to make sure that the Raspberry Pi sends the Raspberry Pi where you didn't want to do more coding on it because we're stuck doing it this way right now because we came up with this idea.
we'll test this by passing in a JSON payload.
We'll test it here. We'll test it
on
in
the
here.
request.
Yeah.
But we'll eventually have it fire from the other the other function.
Yep. So this log.log information, that's just something that goes down into the log below.
Right, down
there,
here.
so you can see what's going on. So we don't really need that in there, but it's nice to see when we're testing to leave that in there for now.
Okay.
Now let's presume that the request is going to have something called well, no, are you going to send it in by queries? Or are you going to send it in through JSON?
For this, let's send it in. Let's just send it in on the query string. That'll be easiest.
Okay.
To just
so we're going to send
in
two things. You're going to send in the value, like 190 or whatever, or 510, and you're going to send in the URL.
So let me start.
You have to anticipate that we've got.
Yeah, I'll start with volume, and we'll request that. And then, I shouldn't have copied and pasted. Bad idea, Jeff. And then, let's call this image URL.
Okay, so is the Raspberry Pi, does that know what the image URL is? No, we're not going to send it from the Raspberry Pi. We're going to send it from your other function.
From the other one. Yep.
Right, we're going to send it from your other function, and the other function will already know the URL.
That anarchist dog. This will be archived and available later today on my YouTube channel.
Can we edit all the places where we're making mistakes? No, that's the difference between this and Pluralsight. We're not making mistakes. No. We're thinking.
While we're here, while we're writing this code, let me go grab this. I want to recognize the folks that cheered today. One of the things that I do when folks cheer as a thank you, Julie, is I actually put a little bit of graffiti in here, I call it. And this was
that's a smart idea.
Stephen P. Adams. And today is January 17, 2019. And we had 200 from Carrie. Very cool. Thank you so much, and that'll stick around with the code here so folks know that you supported the development of this this function.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. All right, so I'm capturing the volume in the image. Okay. I don't need the request body here, do I? Nah.
Well, if you're going to...
That would be if I was pulling something out of the body of the HTTP request. I'm just passing this on the query string, so these are fine to fetch those values.
Okay. Oh, you know what what the default code does? It has the flexibility to find your input, your incoming request information either through the query or through the request body. So at first it checks the query, and it also checks to see if there's like JSON incoming instead.
Right.
That's why you have both of those things there.
Yeah, I'm going to nuke this because we don't need that.
You don't need it anyway, right?
And I'm going to write a little...
No, we want to determine if the volume is too low.
Right. So I'm going to just hard code it to if volume less than 100.
Okay.
And then we'll take whatever action here. And I feel like this return needs to... Right, this is different now. I just want to return a new OK object result, right? That just says not hello name, but... Right.
Okay.
Right. Inspected oil tank volume. Just something so that...
And that goes back to the Raspberry Pi?
That'll go back to whoever's calling the HTTP method here, right? Whoever sends in...
Right. This isn't coming from the Pi. Right, I get it. I'm sorry. I did tell you there was no coffee in this house. Forgive me.
So, all right, I switched from coffee to G Fuel, powdered caffeinated beverage, and I take little single-serving envelopes of it with me on the road so that when there isn't coffee, I can still mix it with water.
That's a rarity. Anyway, so now all we have to do, this one, we should just be able to say message equals.
All right, message equals. And then...
I just had another thought, of course. So create a little... a
little anonymous object? Something like this?
No, you could just create JSON. Can't you just create a JSON object? Yeah, I guess that way.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just put a string.
Why not?
I mean, it expects JSON. Do you want to see if you just put a string?
Well, we're returning an object, right? Hopefully it serializes, deserializes appropriately.
Right. I'm just curious, that's all.
Hugo says, Julie, always take some Starbucks via packets along when leaving the house. Even the coffee area of the house, just in case. I don't know, Hugo. All right, so if I say body equals... Now, we put that message over in the other area. Right?
I'm sorry. I usually just build a tiny little bit of JSON and attach it to message.
Just a string?
But that's because when I've done this, wait a minute. I have done this in C# before. I just can't remember how I created the message. It's just because most recently I've always done it in JavaScript. But here's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens if you just put a string there.
Or make message.
No, just string. Yeah. Don't forget, we already have our default message.
Sure. So, right, message is the name of the object that we're sending over to Twilio.
Put something in there. Boo, something. We're just testing.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was just curious. And, oh, right, because this isn't where we want the JSON. It's for the document. It's for the Cosmos DB document. The output document needs to be JSON.
Right.
That's why I'm getting confused, because I didn't have any coffee. We're doing too many things. We're doing two things, which is one too many thing for me.
One too many? We're too many threads going on here. Need to get back on one thread. Join the threads, and now we'll go. Okay, so this is the message object that's coming back. Don't we have to specify here's the body of the message and who we're sending it to?
Yes, I suppose. My indecision is because, again, I haven't used it this way. So did you see how the
I'm
code
looking
that
at I'm looking at your sample code.
Message.push.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, we're not getting IntelliSense to help us. Why don't you create the same message that I sent you?
Right. So if I do this
JavaScript code.
If I do this in that similar way.
I sent it to you, so I wouldn't look like a dum-dum.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Talking about anymore.
Right. So we would say something like oil tank is low. Current volume is, right? And I want to do some string interpolation here. So I'm going to put $1 in front of there. And I'll say volume, image available at, and then I'll pass in the image URL here. And that's my text message. But
the code I sent was message.push. Was .push just, do you think that's part of the API, or that's just, that's JavaScript, isn't it?
You were doing messages.push. And you were attaching that collection of messages to the message object.
Oh, I was pushing a message into the messages array. That's what push is.
Yeah. Rambling Geek says...
Go ahead. Because I know JavaScript so well, too.
You do?
I don't know JavaScript very well.
Rambling Geek suggests LiveShare needs to work in the Azure portal. That would be really neat, actually.
Well, again, remember, the idea well, they would just be screen sharing and whatever.
So now 2 should probably go to my phone number, and I want to hide that somewhere so that folks can't see my phone number while I'm coding here.
Don't forget the the binding.
Right.
You can put a default body and a default phone number in the binding and not have to code them.
Oh, so if I get rid of that, right, and I come back to just the two of us so that I can hide that for right now, and only you can see.
Don't forget to save this.
Yeah, save that. Click back over to integrate, and I'm going to look at my binding. And I don't see a 2 number here by default.
You can put it in. Oh, look.
Hang on, let's come back to the screen here.
Oh, look. Oh, my God, we're so stupid. Look at this.
Look, documentation. We didn't even see this.
You get to share again.
Yep. So everybody can see the screen now. So when you scroll down here, there's a documentation bit that we completely ignored earlier. Settings for Twilio output binding. Type must be set to this. Direction must be set to that. Name is this. Account SID. We already got that. The auth token. From is the phone number the SMS is sent from. We got that. Body, this can be used to hardcode the SMS text message. And then here's the example. Example function JSON. Here's the C# code. And message is a create message options. You must initialize it variable with the to phone number, and then it set the body. So let's change this instead of an object to create message options. And then I still need
IntelliSense in the portal, though.
Will we? Will we?
No.
Let's find out, because there are using statements here, and I need to put a #r here for requiring the Twilio object. Tell you what, I'm going to copy this.
Oh, so much easier.
And punch it into a notepad for reference while I'm navigating around the...
I just paste it.
No, I'm not going to paste it. Maybe I'll paste it.
Just copy and paste the whole thing.
No. That's wrong. That's plagiarism. What? Nobody reads the docs, says Hugo. Yeah, I kind of agree.
Well, there's good reasons, too. Here's somebody who creates content. Like, oh yeah, let's.
So I'm going to replace that with create message options. Okay. So that's my message object. And then, right, the message isn't a new nothing sitting here. It's a new create message. See, it won't give me the suggestions unless. So we need to do those hashtag requires up here. Right? These are like require this package. It adds it in, right? Something like that?
Yeah.
And then we need the Twilio types. So I'll add those using statements. And now, it still doesn't give me it. I thought we had the ability to get those. All right, so new create message options. And then it's a new phone.
I thought you were going for Covefe or something there.
Oh. No, it's a hamburger. Right? No. New phone number. And that phone number is going to be +1. And then whatever my phone number is that I want to put in there. So what if I take this out of... I need to make that a lower U. And then I need to set the body later. So we'll set this. We'll say message dot... Body is all caps, and it doesn't, yeah. Like that, right? Get rid of this. And then I think that's the thing. Okay, so for the phone number, I'm going to grab this out of Configuration Manager.
There you go.
Right, app settings.
Isn't it nice to see how hard it is for people who, when normally you see us knowing exactly everything we're doing, that's because we've practiced and practiced and practiced, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't come naturally. Like,
no.
We all go through this nonsense. And it's 10 times worse when you're doing it in public.
Yes.
Like, oh my God.
And your video just went a little crazy here. Hang on a second. Oh my gosh. Holy crow.
My video?
This donation to BGC is in Julie's name.
I don't see
Thanks
what
for
you're
being
seeing.
an awesome teacher.
I'm still dressed.
No.
What do you see?
Your video is all of a sudden... hang on.
You mean like my Skype video?
Yeah, your Skype video has gotten really low quality, and it's hard. We can't see you anymore. It's cut off.
That's okay.
Fit? No.
There's really slow internet here, so.
Okay. All right.
No,
so
not much faster, not much worse than my own house, but still.
Yeah, and your audio is getting a little choppy. It'll come back.
Then I should turn off my video.
Go ahead. You can.
Because that'll save the audio.
Okay, let's turn that off for right now. At least there is no blue screen. Yes. The video turned into just a smaller.
Video. What is it? Video saved the radio star?
Video killed the radio star.
What's that song?
Yeah. All right, so we've got just a blue square for right now. We'll try that video again in a bit. Let's see. Crows is here. So I wanted. Oh my gosh. So Auth0 Bobby just had a big cheer. 1,000 bits. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to punch that in here and make sure we record that from Auth0 Bobby. Thank you very, very much for that. All right, so I've got this built, and I wanted to hide my phone number over in my application settings. So I'm going to copy my phone number here, and I'm going to, I need to save first. Functions, no. And then application settings. In here, I'm going to add a new setting called my phone number, and then I'm going to hide my view here. Veronica, thanks so much for the resub. 3 months. Come back to Just Julie, and you got this big ugly blue square now. Ugh.
You're calling me a big ugly blue square.
No, the camera. Oh, the camera. All right, so I added my phone number in there so I can receive that text message. And I will go back over to my code. So now it should fetch and have my phone number. Come on, show me the code. There it is. When it calls Configuration Manager App Settings right here. So I think we can try this now. Other than having the output data for Cosmos DB. Auth0 Bobby asks, what does a sub do? Subscriptions turn off advertisements on this channel. When you come in, there's an advertisement that runs in the pre-roll. It will, if I was a partner and I ran advertisements in the middle of the video, it would turn those off as well because you're a subscriber. And it also gives you the ability to use the .NET bot emote everywhere. Would I have my phone app on Windows 10? No, I have an iPhone. I
have a funny question.
Yeah.
And I've never dealt with this question before. What if we don't want to send out a message?
What if we don't want to send a message?
I wonder if the API will say, we've got default stuff in there. If we take the default settings out, I wonder if it will not send a message.
I don't follow. What do you mean?
What if we don't want... We got an output binding that's always going to send an SMS.
Well, we're creating the message options here and deciding to send it, right?
I don't know. I wonder if the output binding is always going to output.
Ooh.
Isn't that?
But it doesn't.
Let's see what happens.
It doesn't have a destination phone number unless we create this. All right. Well, let's test. Let's test.
Yeah, we need to see what happens.
All right. So we're going to test.
It'll be the same thing for the output document.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So
I never done that before. I never thought about that before.
So I'm going to turn this over to get, add some query parameters, and we want to add volume. And we'll test to see if it doesn't send by making the volume something really big. And I'll make image URL, and I'm going to grab this image address and make that.
I would start with the volume being something that is below the threshold.
Okay. So let's make it 50.
Because what if none of it's working? Then you don't.
Then we don't know.
What I mean?
Yeah.
If
All right.
it doesn't work at all, by testing for it to not happen, we don't know if it's because it's not working.
Now, I've got to ask you, does the Twilio API log the phone number that it sends to in the log window?
No.
Okay.
No. I think the only thing that goes in log window is whatever you write out to the log explicitly in the function.
So I'm going to click run. Application was terminated. What? Did it not build properly or something? Reconnect. You're connected? Okay. Did it run?
Here's what you need to do. Go back. Why is it hanging? Click cancel.
Okay.
Click cancel. Okay. Go somewhere in here. Just make one little change, even if it's adding a line. One change.
All right.
Okay. Now click save. Now go down to the console, to the log.
Okay.
Why is it not logging?
Well, we haven't told it to run yet.
No, it should also click on console. No, go back to logs.
Mm-hmm.
So the log should
save.
also show it talk about compiling, and it outputs problems with the compiler. It outputs compiler messages.
Here's a comment.
Whenever you save, it should
no
do
new
that.
Trace. Nothing.
Is it terminated? Well, try to run. I don't understand what's going on. You know, they may have evolved this and changed it since the last time I was doing this kind of work in it, which was in November.
So I clicked run, and it's not reporting anything down here. Oh, here we go. Service unavailable. Well, that's lame. And I get a Azure Functions app is down for maintenance. Host is offline. All right, well, it's running now. Run. No, still get a 503 unavailable.
I've never seen this before.
What the heck?
Oh my gosh. Why isn't Jeff Holland on here helping us out? Oh, okay. I'm going to Google. Google Bing.
This doesn't make sense. Already connected.
Portal 503. Not running.
Right? I mean, and it's not telling us that it...
The C# timer function compilation is okay, but when I run, I get a 503. How can I debug this? What the heck? We must have missed something. Can you share the function out? Looks like the site's W3WP is using high CPU, which I'm guessing is affecting things.
It's Jeff broke Azure is what Carrie says. I think we did. I broke Azure. There you go.
I've never seen it before.
No. It's not running. It's not doing anything.
Okay, it says note that getting 503s for a few seconds is normal behavior for all web apps and function apps after hitting restart.
All right, so let me go in.
Dave Ebo. I trust him.
So I'm going to click over here into the application. So there's the settings. I'm going to go to overview. It says it's running.
It's running.
Restart
I'll go
it?
back and try it again. Restart might take a bit. I'm going to just run again and see what happens.
Okay.
I forgot to cross my fingers this time.
Well,
remember, it ran before. Remember when we had the default one and ran it?
Yeah, and it did the thing.
What?
This doesn't make sense.
Also, the fact that it wasn't giving you the compilation output was annoying.
Right. Is it because there's no volume in the request exception?
Let's use the portal. It's so much easier.
I know, right? Exception on line 27? No. We're passing volume right here on the query. So that is going in, and it's 50.
Comment out everything except for the log information.
And then?
And now
save and
save it and run it.
And nothing additional in the log.
Right, and the output is still
503 unavailable. Oh. Wonderful.
Click the run button underneath. Let's see if it makes a difference.
This isn't doing anything. Nothing on either screen.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Anybody?
Let's restart this just to make sure.
I need to send some hug ups to the Azure team. Hey, what about us?
Yeah, right. I'm not even looking at the volume at this point. We're just trying to get it to run. You know? So, I mean, everything's there. All we're doing is saying log information and returning an OK result.
President, I can't read that right.
President, not sure.
Normally, I've used this a billion times. I've never had these kinds of problems. Jeff, can you just create a new HTTP trigger function, default one, and just see if that runs?
Sure. So I'm going to click add on the functions here, and we're spinning. And Julie, this happens to me every time I work with Azure.
It doesn't happen to me. I mean, I do this. I use this, and I've actually demoed live in many conferences without these happening. But you and I didn't practice.
Yeah.
I've just never seen this before.
Oh, and now it's not even adding a function. Look at this. Are you kidding?
Oh. Is there something wrong with the query string?
I don't think so. There we go. New HTTP trigger. Right? We'll call this test HTTP trigger. And we'll make this anonymous. Try this again.
Jolly.
Jeff is DevOps kryptonite. Yeah. Try and run this one. Nope, doesn't work. Service unavailable. Okay. Thanks for joining us.
I'm going on to the portal on my computer. I'm going to go on the portal on my laptop and open up one of my functions and try to run it. Maybe Azure is down.
Azure status is all green, says Carrie. No, unavailable. Okay.
Can you run a test on your other function? That notify, subscribe, log.
My other vision function? Another browser? Did I default to my Azure subscription payment? No. Maybe. No, I think my account's in fine standing. Let me take a peek here real quick, just in case it's something stupid like that, but it was running.
No, I just ran one of mine from the portal in a test.
Yeah, everything's fine. What? No. No. This account is all configured and running just fine. I'm looking at my subscription. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at.
Yeah, we're fine over here.
So you know.
I'm in Firefox, and this literally ran just fine 10 minutes ago when we did.
Yeah, we did the other one.
Yep. Something must be wrong with your Functions app. I did try restarting it. Fixed issue with 503 unavailable. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you for your feedback. Probably an anomaly from service announcements. That's it.
No.
No.
I was looking for something. Function host is not running.
I mean, this is literally the default, and it doesn't work.
This usually means there is some bad configuration in your function app, which is causing the host to fail at startup. Things like an invalid host JSON or proxies JSON. And I'm going to add in, is there something wrong with our function.json? Did add a typo to it when you were looking at it accidentally?
So, so this is that test trigger that we built. If I look at the...
Oh, you just did a brand new one where you didn't touch it, right?
Yep, and that doesn't work. Nope.
Oh, what about the app settings? Did you type something wrong in your app settings?
So if I go back to the app settings...
right, because that's common between the two functions.
Sure. So if I go down here, I have my phone number is the only one that I added here that's unique and new. I will delete that. The rest of the stuff is still the same.
Yep. Did you have the Twilio SID settings in there? The Twilio settings in there when you ran it the first time?
Yep. I think so. I mean, if not, we can yank it and put them back in. I'm going to try the test trigger first, just to make sure this one works. So I saved those configuration settings, which should restart things. But not out of credits. Let's see. I'm just looking at the chat. Are Azure Functions like herding cats? They shouldn't be.
No. We screwed something up somewhere.
Service unavailable.
Did you just rerun it?
Yep.
So it can't start up the service.
Nope.
Okay. Can you go to the function.json? Oh, it can't start it. So it's not the function.json.
Yeah, we aren't even getting there.
Because you're getting it on the other test. So it's got to be something shared. Can you take out, are you sure the application, the only other things application-wide settings?
I will yank the rest of these configurations.
And the Twitch poll document DB.
Yeah. Let's just yank them all.
Okay. Right. We're just playing one of these things is not like the other. This is what we learned on Sesame Street. How to debugging.
What did we change that broke? Anything on the console? No, the console is blank, and I'm getting a 503 unavailable. And we're toast at that point. There's no information.
But the good, some of the good debugging help though was. No. Neither function worked, so we know that's not the function's problem.
No. Service unavailable, and it's not telling us why it's unavailable. Right? There's nothing here that says, compiler error or, something missing.
But it doesn't make sense to me, though, that it would be about the compiler or it's not about the specific functions. Neither function works.
Right.
So it's something about the application setting. But let me just say it again because it's so tempting to think it's in the code. It's failing on both functions.
Sure.
So it can't be this. It's not necessarily this function code that's creating the problem because this function code would not be creating a problem for the test HTTP trigger.
Right. We're getting a 503. It's not even right. We're not getting an error message. We're not getting.
Right. So it's the function app. Something's funky with the function app. What else did we do to that function app?
So at this point, I think we've pulled out pretty much everything. We took everything out of the configuration. Did it finish installing?
Just look at it again.
Did it finish installing the Cosmos DB integration? Yeah, that all looks like it's installed properly.
The test HTTP trigger doesn't care about Cosmos DB bindings.
No, it doesn't. But we had to install into the Functions app the facilities to support the Cosmos DB. Some of the folks in the chat room were saying rebuild the Function app. There's no way for us to check the app. It's just kind of...
Go click on the function itself, the app, the Function app, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm just looking. Must be that PHP. I'm kidding.
Yeah, turn off PHP.
Just kidding.
No. Yeah, I don't see anything in here that's...
I hope the answer isn't, well, Julie, maybe you should just stick to Entity Framework.
No. Turn on debugging. That's remote debugging.
Remote debugging.
We're local here. We should be getting some information about what's going on here.
So weird. I've never seen... All right, I'll go back to Google Bing.
Right, running it.
It usually means there's some bad configuration in your Function app, which is causing the host to fail at startup. Things like an invalid host.json or invalid proxies.json file are possible cause. Best to look at the Function host logs. If you open your Function app in the Azure portal and turn on log streaming, you should be able to get more information about what's going on.
Okay, where do we turn on log streaming?
You had log streaming on in your other one.
Well, we opened the... Oh, there it is, monitoring, log streaming. Welcome, you're now connected to the log streaming service. Okay. But I can't navigate away from here or else I'm toast. Like I can't start firing a function and see what's going on in there.
Where's your screen share?
Try to disable the Twilio extension. It might mess something up. It's either the Twilio extension or it's the...
I use that all the time. Look, it still says it's connecting. Oh, you are now connected. I'm sorry, it does say connected. So now what happens when you... Maybe next time, I guess you just need an expert. I swear, I've never had these problems before. I've used this so much, I've never seen this before. I've used the Twilio extension a ton, the Cosmos DB extension a ton. I've never had these problems before.
Let's do this. I'm going to refresh the portal so that we get fresh JavaScript, just the way Mom used to make it. I'm going to go into my Function apps and go back into this. I'm going to restart the app so we see, make sure that this ticks over. I should be able to go into the logs. No, not there. Platform features, log streaming. And application was terminated, and there's nothing about what happened.
Okay. Azure function.
And
that's me typing out loud.
Perhaps we need an offering to the... Yeah.
If Application Insights does not have helpful logs, we can look up logs in the runtime. Could you share? No, just tried. I don't see anything in the logs. Blah, blah, blah.
And actually, it's not even getting me into the... I don't know if
this is what you're asking, but did another invocation saw the request ID? Digging further, I got what seems to be an issue by others as well. Unfortunately, the remedy listed by others does not seem to work. All right. Wow.
Yeah. This is the fun with live video, isn't it?
Well, this is the fun with coding because it happens to it was going to happen to us anyway, but there's pros and cons to it being live.
Absolutely.
The pros is you guys are seeing the reality when we're not presenting.
Yeah, right.
We're all the same.
V1 and V2 have different bindings. So
yeah. But we're in V2 or we wouldn't have seen those bindings.
Right.
We should be on V2. Go to oil tank notification, the app itself. It should totally be V2. Yeah. That's runtime version 2.
So
good to check though.
That's not it. I mean, but we literally did file new project here, right? And poof. Host status. Yeah, let me leave it on web server. And if I try running this, the pro and con is that there are more people who make helpful suggestions for debugging. Yeah. Yeah. So I have data that I'm trying to pass in, and I still get 503 unavailable. And if I go back and we try and look at the logs, it's lost. The Azure portal won't let you have more than one window open, so this is worthless while you're trying to test over here.
What do you mean you can have more than... You can open up another browser window.
Right. I can't control click in here and jump, right? Or even shift click. Can you connect via CLI to the log stream? What's Carrie say? Just delete the function app and start over.
Another 2 hours to build it because we have no idea what we're doing.
We know what we're doing.
We do know what we're doing. That's the sucky part.
Right? What does the monitor do? Nothing. It says, you need application insights. I don't want application insights. I want to know why my stupid application crashed. And it won't tell me.
This is going to be great for people from the Azure Functions team. Will need to watch this video to help them figure out how to make it easier. But, you know, I really want to restate. I've done this stuff and used these extensions and used these bindings. I've done it in the portal many, many times. I've never seen this happen before.
So I've literally gone through and I've taken all of the default settings for all of this stuff. And I've created oil tank notification 2, which should open up here in just a second. When it eventually finishes deploying. And we'll try pasting in some of that same code.
We'll just do one thing at a time this time.
Yeah,
we won't add the 2 output bindings, but I just sent a public tweet to Jeff Holland just in case he's
out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, help! What the heck are we doing wrong here?
So it's...
You know, this is what we should do like once a month. Like, so...
Yeah.
For the millionth time. I've done this many, many, many times, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe this is inspiration to like, let's just like try to do something we've never done before and don't read any documentation and just try to do it.
Well,
see how it goes.
I mean,
that's usually, it works out okay.
We haven't done anything. Right. This is Robert Tables makes a very good point. Try this like a beginner would. As somebody who is technical and should know what some of these things are. Why isn't it starting up and creating my There it is. Okay, so there's the new one. You've created a new function app. Time to add some code.
Create a plain vanilla HTTP trigger
in Portal, and see there is no custom. You're forced into the quick start.
Yeah, we don't like that. So that's just going to create HTTP trigger 1, and we're just going to see if that runs. We'll just put in a name and see if it runs.
And here we go. Try this one more time. Okay, and I want to test. I've got to do... Are you kidding?
It'll be there.
It is. Name equals Fritz. And run. Okay, that worked.
Look, and you're getting... There's another thing I wanted to show you. Just go make some change in there and notice that in the console after you save it, you'll get some compilation. All right, so save it.
All right, so...
And see, you get compilation information there. You weren't getting compilation information. You left and it even shows you errors because you left the quote out.
Yeah.
So click the quote.
Well, no, I didn't.
Hey there.
Compilation succeeded.
I'm sorry.
So now if I try to run, I get the appropriate result, and I get the information coming back.
Right, so all that stuff was happening
before.
Right, but I'm just saying we weren't even seeing this compilation stuff happening in the logs before either.
Right, it was crashing weird. First. Which is, yes, very weird. Okay, so let's add another function. Slowly step through this. Robert Tables, thanks so much for that kind cheer. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, we really need it right now.
We need that cheering up. So low volume, I put authorization level as function. We'll change that. Yeah, very nice name. So I'll go back over to integrate. Where was it? The authorization level. I thought it was manage, maybe. Shoot, where was the authorization level stored?
I think it was on the integrate.
It's
a binding
there
configuration.
It is. All right, I'll change
it. It's a binding configuration on the trigger.
And I'm going to make this available for get only. All right. So
here's what I recommend. First step, create an SMS output with defaults and just put your number, and then, just put your number in there.
Okay. So Twilio SMS. Select that. Install the extension. Naming things is hard. First time I pulled off a win. Yeah. How am I hiding sensitive information?
That extension.
It's this extension.
extension.
Yeah, the mask portal extension. Okay, parameter name, Twilio account SID. So now I'm going to go back to my Twilio settings. I thought I had another browser. There it is. So my Twilio account SID. Copy that. Those two settings need to go into configuration. That's fine. I'll take care of those later. The from number that Twilio is going to use is this. Message text, oil tank, volume is low. So we have a default message.
I have something to say. Even if you don't put those settings into the application,
yeah,
it should still run and then just give you an error message.
Yes, right? It should.
Right? So you can skip. You don't even have to put them in yet.
Let's just make sure we get something.
Right, but don't forget, we do want to at least try to create the message, or just try to run it now. Just try to run it now and see what happens. All even if we don't do anything with the message.
Nope, failed. All we did was add the Twilio, and the service is unavailable.
Well, we didn't just add the Twilio. We did add the binding. Okay, go go to functions.json and remove the binding. Or you can just remove the binding here.
Yeah. So I'm going to grab that and delete. Right?
Yeah.
And if I come back over to this.
Run it again, see what happens.
Now I'm getting a 404 not found.
Oh, because are you passing in the
I'm not passing anything at this. The name is here. Did it recompile?
No, we're really experimenting.
Did it recompile? So I changed the code. It recompiled.
Right.
And
oh, that's funny.
Now I'm getting a 404.
Now what did we do? Well, there's no HTTP method there anymore. How's that?
Sure. What do you mean there's no HTTP? Oh, all right. Change that to a get.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Bad request on the query string. Okay, because I turned off. So, all right, hang on. This was name Fritz run there. All right, so that works. Let's go put Twilio back in. Da, da, da.
No, it should still have the extension. It shouldn't ask us to do the extension again.
Well, I do need to put that message object in, right into the output parameter, so it can find it. Right? Out, and this was a create message options called message. Save that, and the logs should show compilation failed. I need to add the appropriate namespaces.
See, none of this was happening in the other one.
No, it wasn't. This was crashing right here.
Yeah.
Type or object namespace name object result could not be found. Really? Okay, so we need systemnet. That wasn't in that before. ASP.NET Core MVC wasn't in it before. Extensions, primitives, and then Newtonsoft JSON. Okay, so the sample text that we had didn't include all of those things. So I just changed and saved. Compilation failed. Async methods cannot have ref or out parameters. Are you freaking kidding me?
Wait, what?
And it can't find Twilio. Nice.
Well,
okay.
We've been doing weird stuff now, remember?
Yeah. Hey, Frank Boucheros is here. And Mike from Player GG is here. Thanks so much, Mike, for joining us and for that kind. Wow, 2 cheers. Thank you. And then we had Robert Tables with one as well.
Take out the Twilio. I don't know what's going on with it. Let's just shove it into Cosmos DB.
So if we take those out.
I mean, I would just say, here, take my code. But remember, I did mine. My existing ones were all using Node.js, JavaScript. So my code's just a little different. But God, it's not that much different.
So I changed the code, hit save, compilation succeeded when I pulled out Twilio. Don't put my cheer graffiti on this till it works. I'm gonna real quick go back to the other one that we had in flight here that had our other cheers. Let me just take care of this real quick. Pardon me. And 100 Robert Tables, and then we had 200 from Mike from Player GG. Sorry. Mike from Player GG. There we go. All right. So we. It
I don't
sure.
know what's going on with it? Maybe.
It sure feels like it's the Twilio extension isn't working properly.
Yeah. I'm just curious. Mine. I have to make sure. Notify subscribers.
Wasn't there something in the Twilio docs about async methods? Asks Kevin Downs. Maybe.
Rich and I are going to Lowe's.
Wow. I've got an extensions Twilio using statement. Let me go back up here. Slower step by step. Azure Web Jobs extensions. All right, I'll get rid of that. Save. It's still compiled properly. Right? Compilation succeeded. You can post links, Robert. Everybody can post links. And the require. Let's get rid of that. Save, and we'll see this restart. Compilation succeeded. Let's take a look. So Robert Tables has a link for us to the docs. Twilio bindings are provided in Azure Web Jobs Extensions Twilio NuGet package. We had that, I thought. Example functions. Oh, you know what? Did I grab the 1 point Twilio sample? 2 point. And look at this. It's returning a Twilio SMS. C# script example. Okay, so the JSON was this.
There's no async there.
Right, we turned...
Oh, jeez.
Is that it? It can't be just the async.
Well, if it can't get to the function...
So if we did have async...
You can't use out parameters in synchronous code. Here's the asynchronous code.
Yeah. Okay.
Copy paste.
Yeah. There's definitely... I don't want to...
Copy and paste the whole thing to see if it works, just to get it working.
Sure. All right.
Like just to see if we can get something working.
And save, and let's see if we can get it to compile. Script changed, all kinds of errors.
Okay.
Metadata file Twilio could not be found. Even though...
It's my queue item. It's not using HTTP request. Okay, so undo my...
Well, hang on. I didn't... Right, I need to turn on the integration here, right? It wasn't in the mix. So now if I go back, your Google foo and grep is on point. Nice. So I'm going to go back to this, add a space, save, and see if we can get it to recompile and find everything. Reloading. And then. All right. Nope. Script change reloading. Can't find Twilio. Yeah, even though we installed it, it's not available. So we re-added it, and it's not there. It's right there.
Right, we deleted the binding, but I wouldn't have expected that to remove the API.
No, it should still be on disk. All of the packages and things that it needs to reference. And we copied in the exact sample code.
That was my great idea.
Very great idea.
That's all I added to it.
It's not finding this at all.
Unbelievable.
Could it be the NuGet that is missing? Sure. How do we install a NuGet package from here? You require it with this #r code, and it should go get that NuGet package and install it.
Wait, but isn't it just the extension we want, not that package?
I copied the source code from here.
like I said.
Yeah. I know how to do what I've been told to do.
Unbelievable. Does it say anything else we need to know?
It says something here about don't trust Fritz with Azure. What? No.
Don't let Julie use C# anymore.
It's I'm kind of disappointed with the portal experience here because it's I have no way to install those packages. I'm clearly requiring them, and they're not installing. Yeah.
There used to be a way of doing that.
Well, I can go to the console, right? Right, so there's function JSON and run CSX. Right, and if I take a look at that run CSX, it's the same content that's up top. Right? And function JSON is, right, just the wire up here. So how is it not getting it? GitHub issue solved here, says Dander. In Newtonsoft JSON Twilio.api. Are you kidding? They changed it and they didn't change it in the documentation? The typer namespace could not be found. Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
So
Twilio.api is what they're saying should be recorded. If that's what it is, Dander, if you're right on that one, that would be huge for saving our bacon here. Metadata file Twilio API could not be found. Yeah. Let's keep scrolling down here.
This is how I do it too. So like the first thing I find, try that. Oh wait, I guess there's a lot more that I was supposed to read.
No, it's not installing it. It just flat out didn't install it.
Maybe maybe this was just in shift while and we're hitting something. I sure wish Jeff Holland
You're invoking his name.
Tweet.
Yeah, it's
so.
Yeah, we're toast.
Can we?
This is a 2.x.
Not do that part of it and just.
Yeah, let's
send it to the database for now, just to say, look, we did something.
Yeah. There's an issue in the docs that's not changed. Let's open a new issue that there is this issue in the docs. Yeah. Franklin 89.
Yeah, we can do that. That would be great while we focus on this.
Yeah, this is...
So, Jeff, let's just bag this because this could be just, this is what might be what's killing us.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. You're right.
Take out that Twilio.
So let me go back to integrate.
Oh, they're going to be so sad. Sorry, my friends at Twilio.
Yeah. Create a new output, and I'm going to scroll down and
Cosmos.
Choose Cosmos.
Now, while it's installing, scroll down.
Yep.
Do yourself a favor. Scroll down further.
I'm all the way down.
Expand that documentation. Oh, you'll need your
right, we need the other things.
Yeah.
So database name, we'll call this what did we call this? Notifications. Oil tank notifications. And collection name, low volume. And I need a new, and I'm going to choose, I think it was under this, that's fine. And it'll wire up and put that database.
Did you delete you deleted the other output and you verified that it was running again?
The other output.
You deleted the Twilio output binding.
Yes.
Did you verify that the program was back to working again? The function was back to working again?
Well, it's still requiring and looking for the Twilio stuff up here.
Right, okay.
So, right, if I grab just the code from over here, which was just the bare bones basic stuff, paste that in, save, see if this compiles properly. Yeah, I know I'm connected. I changed my code. It's not rebuilding. Oh!
Well,
what project JSON file, Frank? There is no project JSON file.
Yeah, you could. That was how we did it with 1.0. We could, for extensions and stuff.
Look at that.
Take out the output binding. Because that's what we should have tested it before we added a new output binding, just to make sure we were back to.
Okay, so we've taken out the output binding. Go back over to low volume. Look at the logs. It's not recompiling.
I've never seen any of this happen before. This is just crazy.
Tests. Run. Unavailable. Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB is crashing. Yeah.
No, it's not. Don't.
It's the Cosmos plugin.
But you just took it out.
No, I just put the Cosmos plugin in. I took it out also, but it tried to install something. The installation process whacked it.
We're having problems with all of these things. I don't know what is going on. I've never seen any of these problems before. I have done this so many times in the portal.
Yeah. Now this whole application is in jeopardy.
What about our careers and reputations?
Oh, my reputation's already been trash. Okay.
So yeah, there's still mine to worry about, though.
That's right. All right. Wow, this has been great. We've learned a lot. Yes, we are going to send the YouTube link to the team. That's the wonderful thing about when we run into problems like this. It's real easy to send video over to them and say, here's exactly what we did.
Yeah, that was really weird. So, should I just find a link of one of my conference sessions where I've actually done this and it's not been a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna let some folks know about exactly what happened here.
I feel like we just missed something, but twice.
But we missed something, but there was no error, there was no notification, right? That's something as a good. So right. What if we learned from this?
But also, do remember, Jeff. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, please.
Do remember that their fuller developer experience really is targeted in Visual Studio Code extensions and Visual Studio extensions. That's where you're going to really get much more of that. But still, this was rough. I mean, especially considering the fact that I've done it so many times before.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been an issue. And I've used the Twilio output bindings, and I've used the Cosmos DB output bindings, and I've used the Cosmos DB input bindings.
Right. These things all were incredibly stable even during our testing yesterday, and they're not. So what I wanted to call out, what I wanted to point to here is, as a developer, somebody who's using the tools, somebody who's working through these things, when you're building an application, you need to be able to give enough error messages so that you can roll back, so that you can go back into this and say, hey, let me get some details as to what happened so that I can fix the scenario. If there's things that I shouldn't be able to do, I'll block folks from doing that. We can't tell if this is a service issue. We can't tell if this is a problem with the application or the code that I wrote, because the code that I wrote isn't even executing. It's not, I'm getting no compilation here whatsoever.
Yeah, and seemed to be a result of installing those extensions, which I have also done before.
Right. So installing...
Hey, look at that.
No trace messages.
No, installing NuGet packages in Azure Functions 2.x runtime preview. So now we have to make a different executive decision here. We've been at this for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm at my dad's house for only a day, and I have to leave tomorrow because of the storms. So
sure.
I should really...
No, I think we need to cut our loss here.
Yeah,
this is a nice article, Frank, that you sent us, but this is actually, we had a very long email with some of the folks on Azure Functions overnight. This is an older format. They've changed the way this behaves. This documentation, even though, yes, it is from a year ago, is out of date. It behaves differently now, and this is also for preview. The final, it behaves differently.
Wait. You're saying you don't believe that you can just use
You can't use Net Standard.
Net Standard. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. I didn't realize what you were pointing at. Yeah, because now they're using NetApp.
Right. So here's what we're going to do.
Thank you, F. Boucheros. No need to apologize.
Right. This is what we as developers do.
It's great. It was a really good find.
Yeah. Let's look for the documentation. See if there's something that we're doing wrong. There is no function project file sitting out there that we can modify. It's a CSX file, which has everything that it should be building and referencing. So what we're going to do, here's what I think Julie and I are going to do.
We're going to get Jeff Holland to do this with us. That's what we're going to do.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff. We keep mentioning Jeff. He's like a PM on Azure Functions.
Right. So we're going to package up a little bit of the error report of what happened here. We're going to send folks over some documentation as to what exactly happened, and also give them a link to the video when we publish that out to YouTube. I think you can hear in both of our voices that we're frustrated, we're disappointed with what's happening here, but there's an answer that we need to ask for help on. So we're going to ask for help, and we're going to try and figure out what that next step is here, and provide feedback so that we can improve this for the next set of developers that come through and try and work with this, so they don't end up in a similar scenario. It's not a good place to leave off here, but I think we have to at this point before getting some help and deciding what the next steps are.
Yeah, but that's also a good lesson, right?
Yeah.
Because how hard is it for any one of us as a programmer to stop when something isn't working? No, you got to keep at it. But sometimes you just, walk away from it if you're lucky to get another pair of eyeballs on it to get things sorted out instead of just wasting all this time on your ego.
Yeah. So I think we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us, Julie. I wish it had gone a little bit, but can you turn your camera back on so we can say goodbye? See if we can get that working.
See that I'm not like,
Hey, there it is.
I'm still smiling.
Oh, there we go.
Because it's all coding.
Fantastic. We got it working. We got the UI working. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to package up, send that information along. Whatever we hear back from them, I'll share with you folks on a future stream, and we'll go through and we'll apply and hopefully get some fixes in here. Thanks so much for joining us, Julie. We did answer some questions. We got through some interesting things. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to set up a raid. We're going to send everybody over to the Visual Studio channel, where they're actually doing a .NET stand-up right now.
Oh, yes.
So if folks want to hang out over there, want to check that out, sit right there. We'll send everybody over into their channel in just a minute, and we'll have this video archived and available on YouTube later today. Cool. Thanks so much, everybody. And I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll figure out what we're doing tomorrow. If we get a result and we get a fix here, I'll take a look at that fix. Otherwise, we'll work more on the stream deck. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.
Au revoir.